Okay, it's time for some incredibly stupid dipshittery from the Trump administration that's ridiculous on its face, while at the same time simultaneously being incredibly dangerous. I always appreciated Charlie Sykes from MSNBC when he was the host of the Bulwark's Daily podcast. I think he resigned from that post almost 2 years ago. He consistently described Donald Trump as a clown with a flamethrower. He's a clown, but he still has a flamethrower, and you can do a lot of damage with a flamethrower. And that's what this is. An executive order out of the White House. I've got it up on my screen right now. I'm on the White House's website. Presidential actions, executive order, designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. First of all, Antifa doesn't exist. It's an idea. It means anti-fascist. So designating anti-fascism as a domestic terrorist organization. If you're against fascism, Trump's administration thinks you're a terrorist. Therefore, Donald Trump is admitting that he's a fascist, because anybody who opposes him must be against fascism, and that makes them a terrorist. Therefore, Donald Trump has admitted that he is a fascist. It's like they don't even think this shit through, man. I doubt that Donald Trump has any awareness that Antifa stands for anti-fascist, against fascism. Section 1, Antifa as a terrorist threat. Antifa is a militarist, anarchist enterprise that explicitly calls for the overthrow of the United States government, law enforcement authorities, and our system of law. I wonder if he made that determination by looking that up on Antifa's website. Oh, wait, they don't have one. There's no citation given. How do we know this about Antifa, an organization that doesn't exist? Antifa uses illegal means to organize and execute a campaign of violence and terrorism nationwide to accomplish these goals. Are there any members of Antifa who are currently in federal custody who provided them with this intelligence? No, because Antifa doesn't exist. This campaign involves coordinated efforts to obstruct enforcement of federal laws through armed standoffs with law enforcement. When, where, organized riots, violent assaults on immigrations and customs enforcement and other law enforcement officers, and routine doxing of and other threats against political figures and activists. There's the meat of it. Because if you do any of those things, they are going to label you after the fact as being a member of Antifa and therefore a domestic terrorist. This is how they start to round up white people who go to protests. That is what this law is about. This is how they round up white people on the left who go to protests. Antifa recruits, trains, and radicalizes young Americans to engage in this violence. Trains. Has the government found an Antifa training facility? Do they have Antifa recruitment materials in their possession? Flyers, leaflets? We've already established they don't have a website. What organization in the world anywhere today who is seeking to recruit new members doesn't have a website or an email address? They don't have an email address either. Antifa recruits, trains, and radicalizes young Americans to engage in this violence and suppression of political activity. Protesting. Suppression of political activity. Protesting. Then employs elaborate means and mechanisms to shield the identities of its operatives, just like ICE agents. Conceal its funding sources and operations in an effort to frustrate law enforcement. I'm frustrated. And recruit additional members, again, without a website. Individuals associated with and acting on behalf of Antifa. Notice they didn't say members of Antifa. Individuals associated with and acting on behalf of. How do you establish those things? Of Antifa, further coordinate with other organizations and entities for the purpose of spreading, fomenting, and advancing political violence and suppressing lawful political speech. Protesting. This organized effort designed to achieve policy objectives by coercion and intimidation is domestic terrorism. That's exactly what Donald Trump and Brendan Carr, his FCC commissioner, just did to Jimmy Kimmel. Section 2, designation as a domestic terrorist organization. Because of the aforementioned pattern of political violence, which is not documented anywhere, designed to suppress lawful political activity, protesting, and obstruct the rule of law, protesting, I hereby designate Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. All relevant executive departments and agencies shall utilize all applicable authorities to investigate, disrupt, and dismantle any and all illegal operations, especially those involving terrorist actions. What? Conducted by Antifa or any person claiming to act on behalf of Antifa, or for which Antifa or any person claiming to act on behalf of Antifa provided material support, including necessary investigatory and prosecutorial actions against those who fund such operations. Gosh, I don't know, maybe like donating money to Act Blue. Or donating money to Indivisible, which has organized the No Kings protests, which are now going to be labeled as terrorism and Antifa. Be careful on October 18th at your next No Kings rally protest. Section 3, general provision. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, yada, yada, yada. That order was signed on September 22nd. This is protesting. If you protest, if you show up at a protest, let's use October 18th as an example. And remember what cops did during the summer of 2020. During the daylight hours, Black Lives Matter protests were usually incredibly peaceful, including police officers taking photos with protesters, taking a knee with protesters and taking photos. And then when dusk hit, they all put on their riot gear and made the entire thing violent. The violence was brought by the police. And then charges were made of assaulting police officers, resisting arrest, all of those kinds of things. That's the blueprint for this. That's the blueprint for this executive order. No Kings, you're going to see law enforcement in riot gear. You're going to see National Guard troops in those cities where National Guard troops are present. And ICE agents are going to be out on the ICE agents are going to get the day off from immigrants on October 18th because they're all going to be masked up at No Kings protests, picking fights with people, beating the shit out of people, and then arresting those people, putting in their police report that that person believes in Antifa ideology, and then that person's going to be a domestic terrorist. And when you are arrested and charged as a domestic terrorist, you're looking at 20, 30, 40 years in prison for protesting based on how they write up the report. So please be careful and safe on October 18th because this order is for No Kings protests. This order is how they're going to start rounding up white people and locking them away for decades, simply for protesting or fighting back when police beat the shit out of them for no fucking reason. That's what this is. This one scares me.